Well, we're live. How about that? You guys, you're listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network, and this is the goingboldmedia.com, where we talk with the experts each and every time we meet here on the Link to Expert show. And those of you that don't know us, I am Cece Schatz. I'm the doyenne of relationship building, and I have my wonderful good friend here with me, Joanne. Joanne, tell us a little
Joanne,
bit about you.
Joanne Weiland, when you can fly, with link to expert, where you can find an expert in minutes and be found as an expert worldwide.
Well, we're going to start the show today a little bit different. We show the picture of our promo, right? And so this way, when you want to go back and share it with your friends, you know what the picture looks like. Well, we've got a terrific guest on here today. We're going to talk about the Goodreads. It's really the Goodreads Authors Corner. And we're going to be talking with one of our great authors. She did Dancing with the Story from the Inside Out. And Arielle, how do you pronounce her last name?
It's
She did.
Arielle Geo, or I didn't know if you're asking me or her.
You go ahead, say
Her
it.
name. So we welcome Arielle to the show because I'm telling you, this woman was introduced to me so many times. I just really looked it up, and at minimum of 12 years ago, November 2019, somebody from the Center Club that I used to be a member of, Ron Sweet, he's like, you got to get to know Arielle. And anyway, several times since then, people have told me I have to get to know Arielle. And, I've been to events where then she was the entertainment or the speaker. And it's just like, I told Cece, we have got to get Arielle on the show because everybody's talking about her. So welcome, Arielle.
Yeah, definitely. Let me share just a little bit with you about her because I want to make sure that we let our audience know. But she's quite a unique individual because she has a master's degree in counseling and an educational leadership. She's also the author and speaker coach. She's a professional dancer. Arielle's award-winning book, which we're going to be talking about today, it's really the best self-help award. She won for it, and it's called Dancing with Your Story from the Inside Out. And Arielle specializes in coaching women to look and feel younger and know who they are from the inside out. I mean, hallelujah. Number one, to feel younger. I mean, we all want that, don't we? And then the other thing, to really feel like, that you can do everything. That's I mean, that in itself is just a wonderful gift. So anyhow, let's talk to you, Arielle. It's so great having you on. Welcome.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here, and I love sharing my gifts and my stories and my book, Dancing with Your Story from the Inside Out. It was an inspiration for me to write it, and it's an inspiration for me to share it with all of you. So, hoping that you can heal your stories from the inside out. And by stories, I mean we all have life events that happen to us, and we unconsciously, when we tell them to a friend or a family member, we talk in the world of story. And our whole world is filled with stories. Movies are stories, books are stories, poems are stories. So it's using that metaphor of story to help us to recognize the stories of what is true and what we made up, and then to heal ourselves and our stories and to heal our life
I love
through our
that.
experiences.
I do a lot with divorce recovery, right? Helping individuals move from that, and they get stuck in their story a lot. We get
Mhm.
because we're stuck in the pain, right? The pain of what we're going
Yes.
through. And when I read about your book, I thought, oh wow, does this hit home? Because so often we do get stuck there. We do get, reliving some of those experiences that we had. Sometimes we bring them out maybe more than what they should be, or maybe even not as much as they should be. But the reality is we have to progress in life, right? We have to be able to move forward in our
Mhm.
lives and learn maybe from our past, But I love the idea of dancing with your story from the inside out. It's really like, okay, this happened to you. That's, you know, we're sad that maybe whatever you experienced, you know, wasn't the positive thing. But to teach someone to be able to not only through dance and exercise and movement to be able to express themselves is a wonderful gift. So yeah, I think this is a great book and a great, you know, what you do just in your everyday walking life is awesome.
Mm-hmm. Well, like I said in my book, Dancing with Your Story from the Inside Out, dancing is a metaphor, but we do all dance in our lives, and we dance in life, and we are all doing different dances at the same time. And sometimes we meet someone that's doing the same dance, and sometimes they're not. So, and sometimes, like you mentioned, Cece, we're unconscious of, and that's the key, that we're unconscious of what we are dancing, why we're dancing it, and who we're dancing with. So in my book, it's really to become really aware and awake and conscious of our life experiences, and that we are fully responsible for our life experiences and our own healing. And when we're talking in stories, then we're making the story bigger, and the story is growing, and it's not healing. I mean, at times, you know, we may want a listener, because my background is therapy and counseling. So we may want someone, it is healing to listen, but not to make, make drama about it and make it your baggage. Otherwise, it's just, our experiences aren't going to work. And I love to use the example of, we can have an experience in our family, and if there's 4 children, they're all going to interpret that experience in a different way. So in one of my stories is, as a very young teenager, my parents died, and was my dad died first, and then, well, I was in my 20s with my mom, and I didn't realize that was consumed my whole life as a young girl, 13, and I was consumed by it. And I didn't realize it was unconscious, because it was just my emotional reaction, my mental body, emotional body, and my physical body was just reacting to that. And so then years later, I just realized that I'm still carrying all of that story, and, making it part of my life in a not so healthy way. So I had this big awakening for myself. And when I really got honest, is the key word, was myself, and saw the truth of what was going on. And it is, because sometimes we use our stories for excuses. We use our stories to get out of things. We use our stories to be less responsible. We use our stories for a lot of things. And again, it's unconscious. And I like to use the example, I do workshops on my book. And this one workshop, this lady, her story was that she married a man who had children. So she had stepchildren. And when he passed away, she didn't invite the children to see their father as soon as he passed away in her home. So the stepchildren held that against her, and that was her story. She was very, very grief-stricken over the fact, and guilty that she didn't invite the stepchildren over to see their dead father, basically, And I guess at the moment, she just thought that was in their best interest to not do it. But they held that against her, and that was her story. And she came to my workshop, and so we worked through that. And I just let her see that basically it was all made up. It's her interpretation of what happened. And then she reacted to what happened, her story, and then she reacted to her story. So, in an emotional, mental, spiritual way. So it was amazing to see her transform, in that hour, or how long the workshop was, and just let it go and be free. We want to be free of our stories. We don't want to be stuck. And I always give the example of, we all have friends, and then we hear the same old story over and over again. That's how we can define a story. It's very easy to see it outside of ourselves. So when we're talking to a friend and then they got divorced and you're saying to yourself, oh, here we go again. Here is the story, or they lost their job, or they don't have any money, or they just moved to Florida. That's a common story here. And, they're like, looking for work or a house and so on. So
Yeah.
it's always easy to see somebody else.
Right. I mean, we've always got that. I mean, right. Joanne, we always have a story. All of us have our own story, whatever is transpiring within our lives. But we can't let our story define us, right? So we have to be able to figure out how to move through it, and I love how you say dancing with your story, how you can dance through it. And when I think about dancing, I think about, being more joyful and it being inspired, right? Because a lot of times that's what dance and music does to us. It inspires us and enlightens us. And so when we think about that, because we're all going to have a past and we're all going to have a past we don't like, it doesn't matter what kind of past it is. There are elements within that past that none of us like. And so do we want to stay in that negativeness, or do we want to try to say, okay, let me learn from whatever this situation, and maybe I'm going to have something new, bigger and better. And we talk about this, Joanne, you and I all the time, bigger and better. It's right there waiting for us. So we're going to step out of the muck of the story, right? And move forward into something that could be just there waiting for us. So the listeners out there are going to think, how do I do that? How am I? Number one, I can tell you the first thing you need to do is go out and buy this book. So the book is called Dancing with Your Story from the Inside Out. You can find it on Amazon.com. So that's number one that you need to do. So Arielle, can you share maybe a couple other little tips with us that can help the audience if they find themselves stuck in a story? What they find?
Yes, and I also want to say that with every life experience, there's a golden nugget. I call it a golden nugget, that learning experience and something that we can learn and take away from it. It's there. Our experiences are there for a reason, whether they're joyful or painful. So it's for us to be aware and of that golden nugget. What is it that we're here to learn? What wisdom is coming out of this experience? What am I learning from it? How am I growing from it? And so on to move forward. So as you mentioned, Cece, yes, dancing is steps, and we can move in all different directions on the dance floor. And life is a big ballroom, and we're all doing our own dance and moving in our own directions. But the steps to move out of your story is to first be aware that you have a story, and then see it through. See the story through your own lens. So you're going to look at a story. You're going to frame the way to release a story is to frame it as a story. So you're going to look at your experience. So for me, I'll just say that I lost my parents. They died early, and that was my experience. And then I created a story about it. And then I even would make excuses of how I felt. It was all because I lost my parents. And then I would, kind of ask for sympathy. Different things we get a lot of things when we tell our story. There's reasons why we do it, because a lot of times we're getting something from it. So recognize you have a story, and recognize the patterns in that story. And then once we recognize that it is, frame it as a story, then we can let it go. So there's our steps. I have worksheets that I can offer people, and that I do at my workshops. So it's first of all, what is a story? Then what is your story? And then to really say, well, what happened out of the story? So for myself, I can talk about the story, but the facts, what are the facts? That's important. So what are the facts? And then we can, that's where we make our stories from. But if we just look at the clear facts, like this woman that I'm referring to, her husband died. They had a funeral, and the children did not see the father before the funeral. Those are the facts. So the facts are simple. All the rest is a story. Everything else, all the drama and he said, she said, or I didn't, your wants and needs, all those things are part of the story. So if we just look at the bare bones of the experience without the story, it's very clean and very clear. So, and that's can be challenging for some of us to do.
Yeah.
Right. Say a person gets divorced.
Yeah.
If we say they get divorced, they're already talking about the ex-wife or ex-husband.
Right.
They're already in the story when they're talking about the experience. They're not talking about what did I learn from this experience? How did this experience happen? What caused this experience? And kind of really looking at it from a different angle.
Right. Yeah, I like that. It's like I was going to say, it's like peeling back, you know, the onion or peeling back the banana, you know, whatever, to try to get down to the actual what it is. And then I've often said a lot of times you won't heal if you don't, you know, understand the part you played in the demise of the relationship or the demise of whatever that situation is. So you've got to understand the part you played in it so that you can not do that again, you know, or if something happens to you, you know, when you see it, okay, this isn't going to work for me. This isn't, you know, and you don't get yourself back into that same arena again. So yeah, this is very empowering. I think it's extremely empowering. So.
Yes, and in chapter 3, I have, how does your life reflect your story? So that's what we're talking about. So how does your life reflect your story? So we're getting back to the divorce, or just using that as an example, but your life will reflect your story, because say that you are still in your story and you are blaming or causing, not taking full responsibility for your share in the divorce. So that's going to impact you in moving forward in your relationships. And unfortunately, what happens is people get married and then they get divorced. 50% of marriages, according to Dr. Phil, get divorced. So they get divorced. And then because they blamed the other person, both blamed the other partner for their divorce, they go out and find somebody else. And most of the time, they're finding the same faced person again, with the same issues and the same patterns, because two people will be attracted. I went to this workshop one time, and the facilitator said, if you ever go to an event or a party and there's some person on the opposite side of the room that you are so attracted to, you just see this man, or the man sees a woman and goes, oh my God, she's so gorgeous. And all he wants to do is run towards her. Well, this facilitator said, you run, because what's attracting is this X sides of the pattern that are coming together. So it's very easy to see, like with a codependent with alcohol. With an alcoholic, they will attract a codependent person, because an alcoholic may, you know, not be able to get their groceries because they're influenced under the alcohol, or whatever the reason is, or they need somebody to take care of them. Same thing with a sick person. They may attract a caregiver with those kind of patterns. So those are the opposite sides of the pattern to make it complete. And there's millions of examples of that. So that's what we want to recognize, what our story is, because we certainly don't want to attract somebody with a similar story, right? Right. Or the opposite part of that story, or something like that. So.
Well, that's interesting to think about, because maybe you could start, because I was going to ask how you could recognize your story. Maybe you could recognize easier by who you're communicating with, talking with, working with, sharing with, what their story is. And then maybe you'll be able to see that you have a similar story, because I feel like, and this is just my opinion, but most of us don't even realize we have a story.
Right. That's what my book is about. It's unconscious.
But that's why I thought if you maybe would look at what other people are talking about, you might realize, wow, I'm seeing that same type of story as well. Because sometimes I feel like, unless you hear somebody else say it first, you might not want to admit that you're saying it. Does that make sense? Or is that true? Yeah. I mean, you know more than I do. I was just curious.
I have a chapter that says, excuse me, this is my story. So, excuse me, this is my story. And this is my story, not your story. This is my story. And I want to own it, and I want to keep it. And why do I want to keep it? And why do I want to own it? Because then I give myself permission to do X, Y, and Z behaviors, to think in certain ways, to feel in certain ways. And I give myself excuses, even though they may be unhealthy. Say if I'm a drinker, I'm not, but if I drink or whatever I do, then I have an excuse.
Right.
Because I'm feeling this pain, and then I'm going to have this, I'm going to make myself feel better by an addictive behavior, or I'm going to go find somebody else, another relationship. So there's lots of different ways. So, and the key here is to be honest with ourselves.
Right.
To be honest.
Cece,
and that's really challenging.
Did you want to go to the break and then we could talk more about this when we get back?
Yeah, that would be great, because I mean, I think this is so awesome, because I was just going to say, like, when a lot of times when people tell me that they're dating and they're having a hard time, right, and they're seeing the same kind of person come before them over and over and over again, the same kind of thing. And then I always say to them, I think you need to stop and look at yourself, because what it's showing you is there's something there that you need to really reevaluate from within, because you're attracting these kind of individuals that are, the same scenarios coming across in their story, right?
Well, that's the attraction, is because we all have patterns. We all have patterns. And so two people that are so attracted, they have the opposite side of that pattern. So that's why if they're on the opposite side of the room, and you're just compelled, and you're just like irresistible to this pattern, it's a pattern. So just like the alcoholic attracts a codependent person, and it's all unconscious. This is conscious talk, but people are unconscious when they do it, because they're following their patterns, and they're not aware that it's a pattern. But we all have patterns. Everything we do, all our behaviors, all our thoughts, or everything, the way we get up in the morning, everything is a pattern. And some of it we're conscious, and some of it we're unconscious. So that's kind of where I'm going. And that's what my book is about, for people to be aware of their patterns, to kind of wake up and to really see that.
Yeah, it's great. Let's talk definitely more about that, because I think this is very intriguing, very interesting. So those of you that would like to get her book, get Arielle's book, you can go on Amazon.com and get it if you'd like. Or I would suggest you can go to her website and you can find out more information about her. You can go to Arielle, it's Arielle. Her last name is spelled GIORDANO.com, or just go to dancingfromtheinsideout.com. It's right there. When you go to her website, all you have to do is click on, I believe she's got a more, and then you go to store, and it's right there. You can buy it, and you're not going to believe the price. Let me share that with you. I've got it up myself right now. It's shocking. $12.99. $12.99. This is a gift. Buy a few of these and give them as gifts, because I think that it's a great idea to be able to share this with somebody else, so that if they're stuck in their story or whatever's going on in their lives, they can revert back to reading this and maybe heal and be able to move forward in whatever situation they're having. So if you want to send an email to Arielle, all you have to do is go to AGBEAUTIFULE, and that's AG beautiful dance. So it's AG Beautiful Dance, DANCE @gmail.com. So we want to make sure you do that. So those are her initials. AG is her initials, and then Beautiful Dance @gmail.com. So don't forget that. So you guys can contact her. But let's go on to our quick commercial. We got to pay the bills here, and we'll be right back with you guys. We are so appreciative of you. This is a Link to Expert Author's Corner. And we're just so proud to have such a wonderful author here with us today. So stick around. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm John Thomas. I want to share with you a professional products and services directory we call Going Solo Directory. And you need to check this out. If you want exposure to your business or are seeking professional product or services, this directory has it all. And that membership, for the many special features, you get the benefit of a worldwide exposure with a 40-minute video interview on an international business show showcase. All this for just one low annual fee. For more information, contact goingsolodirectory.com.
Well, welcome back. This is Link to Expert, Goodreads Author's Corner. I am Cece Schatz. I have my good friend here, Joanne Weiland. Joanne, tell us a little bit about you and your Link to Expert website.
Well, like I was saying earlier on this show, how many people told me I have to meet Arielle. This happens to me often, and I'm sure it happens to you. And you want to get to know these people better. So what I always thought would be good is if you could learn about them in different ways. Some people, for an example, like to watch interviews like we're doing right now, maybe on YouTube or Facebook or LinkedIn, or some of them like to listen to the podcast. Some of them like to listen to the interviews on the radio, as well as some people read blogs, articles. Some people only believe it if it's on a press release. Some people only believe that person knows what they're talking about if they have the credentials of being a published author, you name it. So I've seen it all, over my lifetime. So I thought, well, what if we could just put all that in one place? So now you can. That's why we created Link to Expert 13 years ago, so that you could find an expert, check out all their credentials, and hire them in minutes. Because the real secret to success, in my opinion, is to be able to eliminate stuff you don't want to do or don't need to do, automate as many things of those as possible so that you have more time. And then last but not least, and actually probably the best, is if you can delegate tasks that you don't like. There's many things that we all do in business or even, on a job that it's really not our cup of tea. And instead of trying to get through it, and usually you can screw up your reputation because of the fact that, for an example, you're not good at it, so it looks like, a child did it or whatever. So then you can just hire an expert and focus on what you do best and enjoy life. So I feel like everybody should do what they love and love what they do. So
Yeah,
thanks for asking, Cece.
Yeah, now you have a membership, right? And is your membership open now? People can actually enroll?
Yes, if you're an expert, there is a membership, but it's open to the public. Anybody can go to Link to Expert, find the expert, check out all their credentials, and hire them in minutes. And that part is free. Of course, they have to pay whatever the fee is of the expert, but it's no charge to use Link to Expert as a resource. And many people use it because we have, like I think 85,000 articles, blogs, videos, podcasts, TV shows, all that things about these different experts right there in one place.
And the beauty of it is if you join Link to Expert, linktoexpert.com, you go in and join, you become a member. We'll get you on our station here. We'll make sure you have an interview with us here, both either on the Author's Corner, if you have a wonderful book to share, or if you would like to be on our business showcase, so our Link to Expert business showcase. So all you've got to do is go to linktoexpert.com, and if you want to get on our show, we're more than happy to have you on, and you can get on for absolutely free if you are a member of linktoexpert.com, if you join right now. And so we appreciate that. So let's move on back to our show here today, because we've got a lot of really fun things happening. We're learning a lot. And those of you that don't know, we are talking with Arielle. Arielle has a wonderful book out, really is going to help move you through your life. And you don't get stuck in your story. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about dancing with your story from the inside out. And look, she's showing the book. So what a beautiful book itself,
Exactly. And I wanted to tell you, Arielle, I looked for mine because I have a copy and I read it. But just like Cece said, buy some for other people. I loaned mine out too, so I couldn't find it this morning. But I just really want you to know I loved your book, and I really do recommend what Cece said. And for Christmas or the holidays are coming up, it is a really terrific gift because really, I really feel like what she was talking about before the break, patterns, I'd love to get back into that because I think people don't realize how, like she said, Arielle said, like even the way we get up out of bed and everything is a pattern. So if you don't mind elaborating more on that, I think it really is a important topic that we need to know more about.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Joanne. That just reminded me that we're in the holiday season now. Thanksgiving is coming up, and the holidays and so on, and that brings families together. So we not only have our individual patterns, but then we have family patterns. And then how many of us have so much fun when we're with our families, or we don't have so much fun when we're with our families, right? Because or push our buttons, and some of us may have the same patterns or different patterns, and it all comes up. So I have read, it's a very sad statistic, but most suicides are committed during the holiday season because it brings up everything. It brings up your childhood. How was your Christmas? How was you didn't, whatever way you celebrated, the holidays, Hanukkah or Christmas and so on. So it's just, and we all have stories about those. So, all the holidays. But getting back to patterns, our patterns that we have are endless. We have patterns for everything, the way that our thoughts, our feelings, just everything, the way, we talk to people, how we talk to people, how we communicate. It's all our patterns of how we do it. And sometimes we can recognize our own patterns if someone's patterns are different. Like, say, for example, I don't usually, if I have an anger issue, I usually don't just blurt it out. I handle it another way. But other people, they can, if they're angry, they just will shout out their anger. That isn't my pattern. But other people have that pattern of behavior and how they're dealing with anger, or how they're dealing with anger in their stories, or they want to be right. A lot of people want to be right, and they'll do anything, do anything anyway, just so that to prove that they're right. And that's another pattern. Just have to be right. So, the patterns are just endless. Almost everything that we do is a pattern. Our bodies physically, the way we walk, our posture, there's patterns set. We go to a chiropractor to correct those patterns that get set. And especially when we don't move, but that's a whole other topic, but we don't move, we really get stuck. And then our patterns that are also in our bodies, not only in our hearts and our emotions and our head, but they're stuck in our bodies too. And how I really experienced this was I went my dancing. Sometimes when I would be dancing and all of a sudden I'd cry. I'd be finished with the dance and cry, or I'd go to a chiropractor. He would hit a spot that had a memory in it, and I'd leave that office and I'd feel very sad, or laughter, the emotion would be changing, but it's because everything is stored in our bodies. But that's a whole other, and all our stories too are stored in our bodies. But what I was saying before, I got a sheet because a few months ago, Barnes & Noble in Clearwater had asked me to do a book presentation because my book is in Barnes & Noble in Clearwater. And I asked the assistant manager, how did my book get in here? And she told me that somebody requested it, and then it started to sell. So it was on the local author shelf, and then it got moved somewhere else, and it was integrated with all the other books. But I've been really excited about that with my book. So anyway, yeah, it's really exciting.
That is such good news.
Yeah. So I have a little sheet, a handout that I give when I do my workshops. I know it's hard to see, so I'm just going to quickly, we have a few more minutes, right? I'm just going to So my quote is that I was saying earlier, framing a life event as a story is powerful because once you realize you created a story, you can change it. Transformation happens when what we know is true, is the truth in our hearts. So in the sheet that my handout, it's what is your story is the first one. What is your perception of your story. In other words, your story is some kind of event, something that happened. What is your perception, your perspective? And then what meaning, what does it mean to you that this happened? What is the meaning that you give to this happening? And then what are your beliefs about what happened? What are your beliefs? What did you make it mean? Just for example, a woman gets divorced and her husband left her for somebody else. She could say that the perception is men don't like me. I'm just saying. She could say that. She could make it mean I'm not good enough. And we do these things, and a lot of them are unconscious. So they just happen, and then we don't feel good about ourselves. So that's just
we hear that a lot, Arielle, in the divorce group. We do hear that a lot, where they feel unworthy. And the reality is, going back to your fact, right? The reality is it was the other party's choice, right? So it doesn't necessarily mean that that you had ownership of that. It's just it was their choice of what they decided to do. And maybe it didn't reflect anything upon you. It was just their choice of what they did, right? So,
well, yes, that's true. But also, if I were in a session with somebody, I would also recommend that they really look at their responsibility in that part of the divorce.
Right.
They may not have caused it. They may have not cheated, or they did anything, outrageous to break the bond, or the honesty in the bond. But just to really look at themselves and to reflect of what part did I play, because we all play a part.
Right.
The wife left, the husband left, or the boyfriend left, girlfriend left, or whomever. So, but we all, we're all responsible for our own behaviors. So it's really important for us to be honest with ourselves. That's the key word. And to look through our stories, because we're going to have a story about it. Well, she cheated on me, or he cheated on me. And then that becomes our story. So therefore, I'm not responsible, or I'm, and it just goes on and on and on. And we have to be honest with ourselves. And we have to also realize that everything that happens to us is for a reason, and that we're partly responsible for. Everything. Even in the world, everyone is responsible for everything in the world. We didn't do it, but as consciousness, we're all connected, and on a consciousness level, we're all responsible.
Yeah. But what I was meaning was that we live in that so many times in the divorce thing. They live in that world of, okay, they cheated on me, and it really brings them down, right? They really, like you said, so they've got to start, I think, like what you have said before, is really starting to understand what part you played in it. And if you didn't play any part in it, if you didn't feel you did or whatever, don't take ownership of somebody else's behavior, because a lot of things go wrong within a marriage. It doesn't mean the person has to step out of the marriage, Right. And if they stepped out of the marriage, that was their choice to do that, Right. And so, but anyhow, it's just, again, it's like, how much do you want to live in that story, and how much do you want to start writing a new chapter to your story? And so those are the things that we want to talk about. We want to get, but I love the understanding the patterns that you have in your life, and start recognizing some of the changes that we need to make, ownership of ourselves, and the changes that we want to make in our new life, in our next chapter. So yeah.
And you'll never find, the solutions to a marriage outside the marriage. You're not going to find that. It's not going to happen outside the marriage. And so, like I said, it's for people to really not blame, playing the blame and shame game it's not a healing way. It's not a healthy way. But a lot of people do that, the blame and shame. And if we take ownership and, and responsibility, and look at our own self, look at our own patterns, look at our own stories, look at our own wants and needs, and just really be totally honest to the core, which is really difficult. This isn't easy because our natural response is we want to point the finger. We want to blame somebody else. We don't want to be responsible. How could
Right.
I be responsible for XYZ doing this? What
Right.
part did I play in it? So,
Yeah.
but it's just really being honest that we all are connected and we all play a part in, it may be a subtle part, but it just takes us to be really core splitting honest to really recognize that.
So are you thinking about writing another book? You could write.
I have Dancing with the Story from the Inside Out, and I have my second book, Celebrate the Dance of the Goddess,
Okay.
that I do base my goddess gatherings at Tampa Bay on. You can find that on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And we meet, have monthly gatherings. And I am thinking about doing a third book. So I am thinking about doing a third. Mm-hmm. I'm just kind of opening myself up to new ideas. And I don't know if you ever read, it was a long time ago, maybe 20 years ago, but the Celestine Prophecy, or that book was I really like that book. So I don't know. I'm open to new things and possibilities.
Oh, great. I think it's so great. Well, you do a lot. And so those of you, we're going to have to probably wrap up the show here, but those of you that want to reach out to Arielle, again, you can go to her website, dancingfromtheinsideout.com, dancingfromtheinsideout.com. All of her great information is on there. She's got all kinds of, like a personal consultation. She's got some classes. She's got, like stretching and tone on Zoom, and they're all economical. You do a great job of making sure that it's economical for people to be able to start changing their life, switching, making something new. You got 21-day fitness challenge. I have to do that one myself. 1-day fitness challenge, which is great. It's 4 coaching sessions, and then you have some belly dance classes. You got various different things on there. So in a variety of different people would do and be interested in doing. So y'all definitely check out her website. It's Dancing from the Inside Out. Get her book right there on the website, or go to Amazon.com, or go to Clearwater, Barnes and Noble. They have it. So if you're in Clearwater, Florida, make sure you do that. But again, we want you guys to know the title of the book is Dancing with Your Story from the Inside Out. And thank you so much, Arielle. We just love having you on. I hope you'll come back again.
Okay, thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you, Arielle. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.